well, I have the great privilege to bring back to the stage our fabulous Dr. Colgan, and you are going to love this next segment and what he's going to talk about. Dr. Colgan's coming to the stage to talk about the secrets of fat loss and the isogenic system. So please get on your feet and welcome Dr. Michael Colgan. Woo!
Wonderful, wonderful stories, and there's lots and lots of people who have successfully lost body fat without going to any special lengths except just following the Isogenics program. But I'm sure there are a lot of people in this room who have people who are cleansing and are stuck, have reached a plateau, or they can't lose, or it doesn't work for them, or something. And I just want to give you some of the secrets that we found over the years that are incorporated partly into the Isogenics program, but you can emphasize them. If you happen to hit one of those plateaus, you can't get rid of the last sticky pounds, something like that. You really want to get down there. You want to be the best you've ever been in your life. You know, I met somebody last night here that said, "I am the best I've ever been in my life." And now that's what we want. So I just want to show you these because this is the average American woman at age 21, age 29, and then after children at age 37. That's the average. It's a representation of what we get from out there in the average diet. And it's not just women. This is the average college weight gain from freshman to graduate in the United States. It's terrible. So you know, we have a mission. We have a mission. We've got to actually make a dent in this, and go out there and get people to change. And once they do change, they're like the gal I met last night. They're absolutely ecstatic with themselves. They're ecstatic. So we want them. Unfortunately, we're faced every day with a barrage of misinformation. You know, every day $50,000 ads for half a minute come on primetime TV, and they're in the newspapers and things. We're loving it. This is health. This is the way you should do it. And it's all junk. So we have to face that, and we have to be more effective in what we do in order to get people. In order to convince people, we have to be extremely effective in the way we say things because we're facing a barrage all the time of misinformation. All you get from most programs is the T-shirt. It's true. I bet how many other people in this room tried other systems of weight loss before Isogenics, and they didn't work? How many didn't work? A lot, yes. Well, it definitely works. It works a treat if we follow it. And the thing is, it's not just weight loss; it's building your health. And I can say it as probably one of the oldest people in this room. You don't build your health. You know, really, I'm in pretty good shape myself now at age 74. But if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care myself. So I want people will try to combine Isogenics with other things because there are lots of things out there. This is a very well-made suit. This is a sweatsuit. It's rubberized on the inside, and people think that they're going to lose weight, where they do their exercise and they torture themselves. They may even be using Isogenics at the same time. But then what you have to tell them is sweat is a measure of water loss, not a measure of fat loss. So, you know, we've measured people who've run marathons at good times, and we measure their body composition before and after, they hardly lose any fat running a marathon. They lose 7 to 10 pounds of water, but they don't lose any fat. The body hardly uses a half a pound of fat. So one of the things you can do is save people a lot of money by buying stuff like this, because it just doesn't work. Just doesn't work. And this is another thing that people say. And I had a girl come to me, and she was losing steadily, like a couple of pounds every couple of weeks, maybe a pound a week. And then somebody at another gym convinced her that wasn't enough, that she had to go faster and if she wanted to get to her goal. And of course, everybody wants to lose fat as fast as possible. So she went to this other gym. She stopped our program. This guy put her on a treadmill for an hour at a time. Now, this girl was sort of slightly overweight, and he had her doing 4 to 5 miles an hour on a treadmill. And she said it was killing. It was absolutely killing. Within about 5 minutes, she was sweating like a pig and panting. And I said, but you can't pant and lose fat. When you pant, you burn sugar. And he said, no. But he said, I got to do this every time. So she did an hour on the treadmill and then a 3/4 hour aerobics class. And she came back to me after doing 5 of these workouts. She had put on fat. She'd put on body fat. And I said, well, that's because he was actually training you to put on body fat, not to lose it. And one of the things that he said to her, because it was so hard for her to do this, 4 to 5 miles an hour on a treadmill for an hour, and then an aerobics class, she said she really had the jelly legs, that they encouraged her to have a glass of juice and an oatmeal cookie before she started. Effectively canceled out anything. We worked out that during that week, she had about 4,000 extra calories of stuff that wasn't any good for her, and she only burned, an hour on the treadmill. You've got to think of this. An hour on the treadmill, you burn about 300. If you're working hard, right in the fat burning zone, you burn about 300 calories total. You only burn about 150 calories of fat. Well, 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. You can work it out. It takes you 20 to 25 hours on the treadmill to burn 1 pound of fat. It's not the way to do it. So, if you eat food before exercise, your body will preferentially use that food instead of your body fat for fuel. So if you work out to lose fat, and you can do fat burning workouts, then you have to do them on an empty stomach. Sounds hard? Do less. But don't eat an oatmeal cookie beforehand that's about 300 calories and expect you're going to lose anything, because you're not. So if you think of that, food before exercise prevents fat loss. And then this is a very you often see people who go to the gym and they say, well, I'm going to up my treadmill and I'm going to put it on a hill, and then in no time they're puffing and panting, they can't talk. That's a simple measure of the fat burning zone. You can speak in a normal tone of voice and do the exercise at the same time. If you can't do that, you are burning sugar, not fat. The body will burn up all its sugar without hardly use any fat at all. So it's another little thing to keep in your head. Panting prevents fat loss. Because fat is very nutrient dense. It needs a lot of oxygen to burn it. Once you start to pant, what is that saying? My body is short of oxygen. Therefore, I can't burn fat. And in treadmills, this is, of course, a lot of people use treadmills and ellipticals to burn fat, and they do, and it will work extremely slowly. It will work, but treadmills are really great for hamsters, and they're not so good for people. Not if you want, because a lot of people want to burn fat, and they say, "Oh, it's cardio." I'm improving my heart by doing it. But if you're doing it intensively enough to improve your heart, you have got to either do 3 or 4 hours that you would do it like at a fast walk, or you are not going to burn any fat. You've got to do it till you pant. So you've got to say, what am I doing this treadmill for? If I'm doing it for cardio, I can get good cardio training on it, but I can't lose body fat on it. I can't do both at the same time. So that's a problem, and it's the same with ellipticals. One of the gyms that I go to, I see there every single day. It's a social club. There are like 10 ellipticals in a row, and they're all full. And somebody's reading the paper, and somebody's chatting, and they're not doing anything. It's a social club. So if you go for social reasons, that's fine, but it's not for burning body fat. So, in fact, I hesitate to say this with Ken in the audience, but ellipticals and treadmills are great for gyms because they can get people standing in one place while you take their money. And people, and I have seen ads for this as well. You know, you get these ellipticals and you get on them and your legs go every which way like this, and they're quite complicated until you get the rhythm. And for some reason they include, increases fat loss as one of the things with this special design, etc. But they don't. All they do is wobble your fat around. So you can get cardio training on an elliptical, but it's very, very difficult to lose fat on one. So people do these things, and they go it to exhaustion, and they walk out of the gym with the jelly legs, and they think, I must have burned some fat, and then they get home, and they get on the scale, and it's, oh, God. And there's the major problem that a lot of people have is when they start out on this journey, when they are carrying 20 or 30 pounds that they want to get rid of, they often, and this wouldn't apply to people like Cindy Hedges, who doesn't know what it's like to be fat and has built muscle all her life, but a lot of the people, they haven't done anything. I have 2 people now who are moderately overweight. They have not done a stick of exercise for the last 20 years. And they suddenly expect to get into an exercise program, even though it'd be very, very easy, because you've got to ease them into it with a teeny weeny bit to start with, otherwise they're going to die and you're going to lose them. And but I have to tell you, this is not for you to sort of emphasize to your cleansers that need you lose fat. If you don't have enough muscle, which a lot of people don't who have not exercised, then how can you burn the fat? Because the fat is burned only in the muscle. Fat doesn't burn fat. Fat just hangs. It's only muscle action that burns the fat. So you have to, for people who haven't exercised, who are not very strong, they have to build muscle first. And so you have to ease them into that program and tell them they have to build muscle first. Otherwise, they're just not going, it's not going to be successful, and you'll lose them. And for a lot of people who've been very frustrated, who've sort of email me and come see me and Facebook me and everything, that they've reached this plateau and they can't do anything. And then I look at what they're doing. They are not doing anything to build muscle. They are doing no resistance exercise at all. And yet they're overweight. Probably their ratio of fat to muscle is such that they could never use that muscle to burn enough fat. They have to build muscle first. So you have to get people into that idea that you have to have a muscular body in order to have a lean one. Now, of course, people can do it another way, and we'll come to that. But it's a very important thing, because people get very frustrated. They look at you and they think, oh yeah, well, you've never had a problem. You're lean, you're muscular. Look at me. I've always had a problem with fat, and I don't do any exercise. I haven't got any muscle. You ask them to do a push-up or a pull-up. That's a very good exercise. Just pull themselves up on a bar, and they can't even get their feet off the floor. So you know that you've got a problem there. They've got to build the muscle first, otherwise you're not going to be successful. All right. And of course, this is Lori Harder, and you can see that the state of her muscle, and that's where you burn the fat. That's why she has no difficulty keeping fat off, because she's got the muscle that burns it like crazy. And then there's another thing that people often ask me about, and that's cellulite. And there are 12 leading, there are about 100, but there's 12 leading creams on the market that are anti-cellulite. They are all a complete scam. All total scam. There is no way that you can affect cellulite from the outside with a cream. And because cellulite is, in this case of this photograph, is herniated fat cells. They're fat cells that have got so big that they burst their inner core, and that's why they stand out like little bumps. And there's no way you can affect them from the outside at all. In fact, it does to jiggle them up and down by, say, trying to jog on a treadmill or something really makes them mad. It makes them inflamed. They get worse. And I'll tell you, if you wrap them or rub them or scrub them or suck them or massage them or squeeze them or thump them or jiggle them or constrict them, it makes them really furious. But it doesn't get rid of them. So you have to know that the only way to get rid of cellulite is to get rid of the fat. And the only way to do that is to have enough muscle to burn the fat. And then you have to go on an isogenics program to get the right nutrition to burn the fat. So it's a complicated process. So when you see people that are 100 pounds overweight or more, and you realize they go through all these systems and they don't work, that's because they don't understand about the fat. And I used to have a clinic on Sunset Boulevard, and one of my big things was Hollywood stars coming to me and saying, "I've heard you can deal with the cellulite," and then I tell them like what they have to do, and they say, "Oh no, I don't do that." I say, "Well, do you do any resistance exercise?" "No, I don't want to have muscle. I don't want to be muscular." And there's every objection. They want some way that I'm either going to suck the fat out, or I'm going to thump it hard enough that it goes away and hides. But it's a huge problem in Hollywood because they have to bear their cellulite on command. For most of us, we can cover it up. So I learned a lot about it over the years, and some of the people that I was successful with, they didn't pass on to the other. They said, "Yeah, you did a great job with the cellulite." The only way to deal with the cellulite is to lose the body fat, then the herniated cells die off over a period of about 6 months, then they're replaced by little fat cells that don't have much fat in them, that aren't herniated and therefore don't create the bumps. That's the only way to do it. You can't suck it out, by the way, with liposuction. Liposuction does not touch cellulite, no matter what the advertisements say. Liposuction takes fat from underneath the cellulite, which actually then puts the cellulite against muscle so it stands out more. So that's one of the myths that I want to get rid of. Now, the other thing that is very, very common in gyms is people go in and they have this array of seated exercise. They go from one seated exercise to the next. And when you are exercising, your muscles will take the shape of the way that you are when you're exercising. So the position the muscles are in when you're exercising is the shape you're going to get. So if you do seated exercise, the first thing that people do is stick their gut out. When they're trying to do an arm curl or something, the first thing that happens is the gut comes out like this. In fact, some machines have actually got straps to hold it in, but it doesn't work because then you push out against the strap. So you're actually training yourself to have a bigger bay window than you had before. And when you sit and you exercise, and the big muscles of your thighs are clenched, they are going to assume the actual shape of the seat. Now, it should seem obvious that things assume the shapes that they're most habitually forced against, but that's the case. So you want to totally eliminate seated exercise from anything that you do if you want to become slim. And then we come to cardio. I would say most of the gyms that I go to, they have cardio as one of their prime ways of losing body fat. Prime way. Well, let's see. So as I said before, we can run without panting, so that you're in high fat burning mode. When you're normal speaking, you can use about 300 calories an hour. About 150 calories of that will be fat. So you're going for 150 calories an hour. So if you do 5 one-hour treadmills a week, you've lost 750 calories of fat. So in 2 weeks, 5 times a week, twice 2 weeks, you have 2,500. And it takes approximately 20 of those sessions to lose 1 pound of body fat. Now, for 20 of those sessions, for somebody who doesn't do exercise, that's enough for them to say, to hell with paying the gym membership, I'm not going back there again. So when you know that it's really, really ineffective, why do it? Isogenics has a much more effective system. So I just want a little word. Cardio is a con. Now, Ken Cooper was one of the people who popularized jogging and running, and so was Bill Bowerman, who was a friend of mine who started Nike. And they never claimed that it would do anything for body fat, but it got to the stage where it was being used a great deal. And Ken, of course, did a lot of measurements on cardio and its effect on the heart. But if you look at his later books, he said that he was surprised to find that the cardio response of people who walked around his track was as good as the people who ran themselves to death. So that you look at his later books. Earlier he said, no, you have to push it in order to get a healthier heart. But then when he made a lot of measurements, he came to the conclusion that the people who walked got us just as much cardio effect. So you can stretch your fat. Some people go. There's one gym I go through now and then that has a whole stretching program for fat loss, and I can tell you it is absolutely useless. You can stretch the fat all right, but it always springs back. You're not going to burn any of it. None. And then there's a way of losing this. You can lose body fat by fasting. You can, and some people do, and some programs I've seen have 4 and 5 day fasts. And they're tough. They're very tough. Your body's after day 2, it's in real ketosis. You're feeling really, really bad. But this is what happens. You lose the fat from your face, and you lose muscle from your face, and then it develops a lot of creases and wrinkles. And I'm sure some people have seen those people that go on these really crash diets. The only thing that crashes is their face. So don't do it. It's not good for you. Yes, the comfy chair. Yeah. We are not really a creature that's designed to sit. Now, several hundred years ago, there were very few chairs. Only rich people sat in chairs, and they were usually overweight. Most people actually spent most of their time on their feet. But now we spend most of our time sitting down. And your body that is touching the chair will grow to resemble the shape of the cushions. There's no way around it. So beware your chair. I changed, much to the annoyance of my office workers, I changed all of their chairs, their comfy chairs, for exercise balls. And some of them actually still use them. The other ones have gone back to their chairs, but they're because you have to move all the time. You're continually exercising the muscles, and it's sort of, it doesn't burn much fat, but it doesn't get you settled into that one position. And it's just, I'm telling you, you'll assume the shape of that chair. And then there are the secret dieters. They diet in secret. I had one of those, and she wasn't losing anything. And then I said to her one day, "Sue, what are you doing?" She was following the program. She said, "Well, I get really hungry at night, so I get up and I make a rice pudding." And she said, "I heard that calories at night don't count as much." No, everything you eat in private shows in public. So, now, I haven't put any pictures up there, but I wanted to talk about these things. There is quite the market and quite a lot of foods sold that are supposedly negative calorie foods. Well, believe me, your body and mine follows the laws of physics. There are no negative calorie foods. There are no foods that actually can reduce energy. Energy is never, ever changed. Energy just goes through, and it's always plus. No matter what you do. People say, well, there's celery, and yes, there are foods that are high in fiber and high in water. If they satisfy you rather than a donut, then there's going to be a difference. But there's no foods that actually reduce the calories that you're taking in. None. And this is one that's pretty frequent now. Your cell phone feeds the muffin top. And the reason that it feeds the muffin top is people lie in bed with their cell phone, they're clicking, they're looking at their email, they're sending a few messages. And that the light that is used for the cell phone backlight is in the worst range of light for interrupting your melatonin rhythm. So if you're lying in bed and you're looking at that backlight, you are churning off the melatonin that enables you to sleep. So it's a good tip, because if you don't get the sleep, you can't lose the fat. You can't lose the fat. And if you do get the sleep, if the deeper you sleep, the more fat you will lose. Now, sleep is an incredibly active process. About at least 100 physiological processes go on during sleep that we are completely unaware of. And one of them is the redistribution of the way our body is using energy. So I'm very much in favor of people getting 8 hours sleep a night. Now, I know it's hard to do that, but if you think of it, if I want to be slim, I don't want to look haggard, I want to have great skin, I want to have great organs, I want to have a great brain, then sleep enough, because it's very important. And the other thing is that's often neglected is breath. Most of the people that we examine first when they come to the gym, they don't breathe properly. A lot of them, and I have to say it's as equally distributed amongst men and women, they breathe from the top of their chest. They breathe in a shallow fashion. They never breathe into the belly because they don't want to stick it out. But when you breathe into the lower part of your lungs, you breathe into the area that's richest in oxygen receptors. So more oxygen is taken in the lower part of the lungs than in the upper part. So if you don't breathe properly, which is one of the parts of our program, we teach people to breathe in much in a yoga style, deep belly breathing and then widening the chest and finally breathing in the top of the chest. It's in my little book, The Quiet Mind. And all of your health improves, and especially your ability to burn body fat. Fat is very calorie dense. It's 9 to 10 calories a gram. It needs a huge amount of oxygen to oxidize it. That's what we do when we burn fat. We oxidize it. We mix the fat with oxygen and it gets used for energy. If there's not enough oxygen around, no matter what else you do, you're not going to burn the fat. That's why it won't burn if you pant, because there's not enough oxygen around to do it. Okay, and finally, this circadian rhythm. We are all under this, under the influence of our circadian cycle. If we countermand that circadian cycle, like people who work at night, do you know that you have about double the chance of being overweight if you do night work? That's because your circadian cycle is always upset. You never get sleep at the right time. Yet you have built into you a circadian clock that cannot be entrained so that you can work nights and sleep days. There's no way it can work that way. It can be entrained a little bit to a new environment because the light cycles are different, but it cannot be entrained in a normal, if you go outside at all, more than a couple of hours. So if you work night shift, you are going to have much more difficulty maintaining normal body weight. So that's it. Sort of speaks back to the day-night cycle. Get your sleep. When it gets dark, your melatonin system kicks in, whether you are sitting under this light or not. This does disrupt it, artificial light, but the whole lot of the physiological processes are trying to go on. They're trying to go on. Your body's trying to go into its melatonin rhythm. And if you continually interrupt that, not only will you age faster, but you will not be able to lose body fat as efficiently. So if you take all of those things and you apply them to your cleansers, especially the ones that have difficulty losing body fat, or the ones that have that last few pounds they just can't get rid of, and you winnow away at each of these things that I've talked about, you'll find that there's almost no one that cannot become slim. Almost no one. I don't remember a single person. I mean, when you have somebody like Jill Birth who tried everything, but then when she actually went on isogenics, and started doing the exercise and doing the right things, she lost half of her body weight. That's enormous. Half the body weight. Yes, and this is another little trick you can do, and that is, if you are using the omega-3s, I've got some of the latest research here. I'm just going to quote a couple of things. This is from Functional Foods 2013. It's a good journal. Prior supplementation with long-chain omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids promotes weight loss in obese adults, a double-blind randomized controlled trial. That's one. I've got dozens of them. There is no doubt at all that increasing your omega-3 intake is going to help your body to lose fat. I haven't got time to go into the mechanism now because I'm getting to the end of my time, but I can tell you one of the Paul Anthony, who's one of the he's the world natural bodybuilding champion that's in isogenics. One of his tricks for his people to get really slim, like Lisa Wolny, take 10, 15 omegas a day. And it works. Another good thing, and one of the secrets I think that comes from the isogenics, the whole system, in the Ageless Essentials, there's 2,000 international units of vitamin D. Vitamin D promotes fat loss. It promotes the balance of fat and muscle in the body. It has one of its many, many things that it does. So that's another little thing you can use to up people's vitamin D. Make sure they're taking the Ageless Essentials, which, by the way, has a higher level of vitamin D than any other vitamin pack on the market that I know of. And they put that in before the FDA increased the amount of vitamin D that was considered a daily requirement. And Canada did the same. So they're ahead of the research. And finally, a couple of little tips about it. People say, well, I've done everything, but I just can't get my abs to show. Well, your abs start to show in the kitchen. It's only in the gym that you can develop them, but they start to show in the kitchen. So it's what you eat that reveals your abs. And if you want a lot of the details of this diet and the sort of the right food, it's contained in my little book, Nutrition for Champions, that I have to say is completely in accord with Isogenics, even though it was written a few years before I joined Isogenics. So, last thing, remember every working unit in your body is a protein. There's very little else that you need to worry about once you've got that right. All of the vitamins and minerals are cofactors. All of the other things that you do, all the essential fats, are cofactors to this thing, to proteins that run every working unit. Thank you.
I'm going to keep you up here with me, okay?
Okay.
Is my mic on? It's on? No. Okay, it's okay. Okay, hello. Wow, that was fantastic. Although I'm a cardio girl. It's kind of tough to hear that, but there still is benefit to cardio. Get out and walk.
Oh, yeah.
Get out and walk until you're, a nice, a great pace, and it is important for our heart, and it's very, very good. But when you're talking about really transforming your body, you've got to do resistance training. You've got to pick up some weights. You've got to use some resistance training. Well, actually, we had a fantastic workout with Dr. Colgan yesterday, and he would probably, again, disagree with that. You can work your body out very effectively just by using...
Yes, without any equipment, yes.
Any equipment, yeah. He did a great job doing that with us yesterday. Before I let you off the stage, I wanted to ask you about... talk a little bit about how to eat to really maximize your benefit with the isogenic system and build lean muscle. So what I mean specifically is grams of protein a day.
Oh, right. Well, if you're really, really active, if you're an athlete, then you'll get the maximum response from about 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. That's a lot. You work it out on your own body weight, 1.7 grams per kilo. The Isoline Pro contains 36 grams, so 2 of those is 72 grams. If you get a good protein meal, you'll get maybe another 30 grams. That's about 100. So you need at least that for just a normal active person. An athlete needs more than that. And in fact, if you have a plateau where you don't think you're gaining muscle and you don't think that anything's happening, often a little extra protein a day and like another shake will do the trick.
Okay, so when you're talking about, like for me, I weigh about 130 pounds. So normally I will tell women, or I'll tell people, women usually, half your body weight in grams of protein. So that's about like maybe 70, I'll tell them 70 to 80 grams of protein a day minimum. Is that correct, or should we take more? 100 grams of protein.
I've worked it out on the gram scale, but you can get that scale, by the way, at isogenicshealth.net for your different body weight and the amount of
for
protein.
kilograms versus pounds, is what he's saying. Okay, so take a look at that. All right, awesome. And then, like we heard Kirsty talking about Sherry, when she was competing, she was feeding her body about every 2 to 3 hours. Do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yes. It's quite a good system. The major problem for people who are overweight is that they tend then to eat too much. For an athlete, 5 to 6 small meals a day is what we do in any case. Mm-hmm. But they can lose body fat on that. But the problem with trying to do it with somebody who's overweight and doesn't exercise, they don't have enough muscle to burn it. So then 5 or 6 meals a day is not going to be good for them. It's not going to work for them.
Okay, so let's talk about that in conjunction with the isogenic system. So if you have someone that is not a consistent exerciser, that has higher body fat and not a lot of lean muscle, or doesn't look to be, very muscular, then it is more important to keep them to that 2 shakes a day with 1 healthy meal, and just have them eat and space those meals about 4 hours, so their body gets into a little bit of maybe fat burning before they put more food in their body.
Now there's a bit of a problem there, and I'm sure a lot of you have run into it, and you probably have too, that a lot of people are functionally hypoglycemic. They have taught their body that if they don't fuel it every 2 or 3 hours, their blood sugar drops. And that's because they've kept the blood sugar artificially spiked by, using a donut or something as a snack.
How many of you guys use a donut to keep your body artificially spiked? No?
Well, it needn't be a donut, but there are lots of different snacks. I have people who are in my office, that work in my office, who are overweight. And each one of them has a box of candies in their desk. And every hour or something, they'll have a candy or, a little chocolate or something. Mm-hmm. And they wonder why they can't work out and why they can't lose the fat. And that's because they're continually feeding, their body's got used to existing off what's in the gut. And so you have to transition people out of that. And I'm just doing that with one of my girls right now. And she said, well, it's so hard not to have the candy in the desk. It's like a reward. I'm going to finish these invoices, then I'm going to
have a candy. And you've talked about that before, that especially in America or North America, and our diet is that we typically feed our bodies a lot of processed food and a lot of highly sugared food. So your body gets very used to living off of what's in its gut versus living off of its structure. Do you want to talk about that?
Yes, that's it. Yes, if you have to think about this. If you have cravings for any sort of food. Now, I mean a craving. I have had one lady just recently who, she said, when I feed my kids and I eat my own meal, and I eat when I'm preparing the meal, and then I eat all the scraps off their plates. And she said, then if it's not too late, I get in my car and I drive down and buy packets of cookies and come back and eat them all. And she actually is one of the people, and you can look this up online, one of the people who went and got her mouth wired so she couldn't eat. That's sad. That's craving that's gone crazy. So there are a lot of people who have much less cravings than that, but they do have a craving. Now, one of the things that I have noticed myself, and I've noticed it in other people, that people who are consistently on the isogenic, their cravings diminish. Mm-hmm. And if they get to a certain point where they go away, I don't think I've had a single craving for anything since I've been on isogenics. Mm-hmm. I get hungry and I love a good meal, but I have no, like, I just gotta have this. I've got to have a chocolate, or no, never. And I know it exists a lot. I see it in my own office.
Yeah. How many of you guys had that before you started Isogenics? That you had cravings? I did too. I told Doris, where is Doris? Doris right here. I told Doris, she said, oh no, you're not going to crave those things anymore. I'm like, okay, I don't really believe you. I love you, but I don't believe you. But Isogenics really does, because it feeds the body so effectively, the nutrition that it needs, that your body doesn't crave the things that are unhealthy for it.
Yeah, I have to say, there's nothing against Isogenics. I very much like them. But before I joined Isogenics, every year I used to do the chocolate convention.
We love chocolate.
And I used to get all these wonderful chocolates. And I think I probably started, I had a craving for them after that. And it disappeared.
Chocolate should be one of the 5 pillars of health, Dr. Colgan. We love chocolate. Yeah, I know. Us too. Well, Dr. Colgan, fantastic. I mean, that was some great information.